Welcome to the seventh episode of the Numeracy Report. My name is Sandra Thambidurai. I'm a math teacher, a math coach, a mother of two, and a lifelong learner. One of the most influential men in the world right now, Elon Musk, has said, "The why of things is extremely important because our brain has evolved to discard information that it thinks has no relevance." My goal for this show is to explore the many ways that math is used in various industries so that students can understand the reason why they're learning the math they're learning in school. I am so excited to talk to our guest today, and she is none other than Anika Gandhi. Anika is the creator behind Anika's Do-It-Yourself Life, where her goal is to inspire and empower beginners with woodworking and home improvement ideas and skills. In her previous life, she was a PhD scientist, engineer, and started woodworking as a weekend hobby. She picked up a power drill for the first time 9 years ago and realized she could build her own furniture. She launched her website and channels in 2016 to showcase her work and inspire others. Her goal is to break gender and cultural stereotypes to unlock the creative potential in everyone and experience the feeling that comes with making with one's own hands. She keeps her projects approachable and easy to follow while adding a unique personality to them. She also loves experimenting with different materials, wood, concrete, metal, etc. No material is off limits. She's been featured in Popular Woodworking, Family Handyman, Molly Makes, Highland Woodworking, Apartment Therapy, HGTV.com, DIYNetwork.com, BuzzFeed, and more. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Anika Gandhi. Hi, Anika. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It is an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Your story is really inspiring, and it would be wonderful if you can describe your journey to becoming a DIY woodworking content creator. How did you get started?
Okay, so I started out in 2011 when I was actually looking for a table and chair set for my daughter. And all I could find was, plastic, primary colored furniture that was affordable enough, or there was Pottery Barn, which was way out of our reach. And to be honest, before then, I had never, ever touched a power tool. I had no access to a power tool. We had only just bought a power drill because we had moved into a new house. We had bought our first house and we were trying to put curtains up and stuff. So we bought our first power drill at that time. And really before then, I had zero exposure to power tools. I grew up in India and I was always very crafty. So I did like paper crafts, paintings, painting pottery and things of that sort, but never anything to do with power tools. And so jumping back to the IKEA table, or sorry, I didn't mention the IKEA table yet, but so we were looking for the table and chair set for my daughter, and I found IKEA. IKEA had a $20 table and chair set for little kids. So I was like, okay, that's not bad. I can paint it and I can give it some personality, so it's not just bland. So that's what I did. I bought that and I spray painted it, which I should not have spray painted. Of course, I didn't know what I was doing, but I did it to make it colorful. I bought some colorful flowery fabric and I upholstered it with hot glue, the chairs of the set, and it worked. I mean, it worked for a few years. Like it was fine. And I had friends who had kids the same age who and they wanted similar sets. So I made like another, maybe I think I made 3 more sets for them. And so we had fun. And then I was having fun. And during that time, I had also discovered a bunch of websites, specifically Anna White, who was like a major inspiration to getting started. So she shared very simple projects and things. And looking at all of that, I was like, I think I can build furniture. And at that point, I had a friend who had like 3 kids, and she said, I really want a table and chair set for my kids, but that is IKEA table is way too small. It's not going to work. So I was like, okay, maybe I can build it. I had
Wow.
discovered that it's probably something that I can do. So I purchased a thing called a pocket hole jig. And it's essentially a tool that helps you join boards. And it's a lot easier than the traditional joinery methods. And it looks neater than just, putting a screw into 2 pieces of wood to join them. So I bought that. So using that and the power drill, I built the first table. And I didn't even have a saw. I had Home Depot cut the boards down for me. I hand sanded it. I bought some sandpaper and I hand sanded the whole thing. Um,
Wow.
and it wasn't like I put it together and it worked well and it was amazing. It wasn't that, of course. I went through all of these things of things not working and figuring it out and problem
Mm.
solving and all of that stuff. So uh, that was the first project I built, and my kids still used it up until about a year and a half ago, and they completely outgrew it. Like we
Wow.
held on to it as long as possible. We
Yeah.
ended up not giving that to my friend because I moved before I could paint it and stuff. But yeah, that was there, and it was like my baby.
I
And
know.
so finally, yeah, but just building that whole the feeling of taking like pieces of lumber and actually turning it into this tangible piece of furniture that is so useful. Just that feeling was so empowering. And I was like, okay, we need a media console. Let's build a media console. So, it
Right.
sort of snowballed from there.
Wow.
And
So did you see that? Like, I know you felt that passion when you were building, and you felt this is something that you can do, but you saw that vision that, or was it more like, I want to share with other beginners, how to do this, because you kind of like, did you document your journey from the beginning?
no, I did not. So originally it was just for fun, like it was a hobby and I was just doing it on the side, right? I had found this, it was empowering. And over the course, because before I built that media console, I convinced my husband to buy me a miter saw for my birthday. So I was just doing it for fun over the weekends. I was still working a full-time job. And we actually decided to so my husband got a new job, so I quit my job and we moved cities. And
Mm.
I had just had my son, and I thought, okay, this is a great time for me to take like maybe 6-7 months off and spend some time with both my kids, because my daughter had been going to daycare since she was 3 months old. So I always felt that
Yeah.
so I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take some time off and I'll find a new job in like 6-7 months, because we moved to the Bay Area, San Jose. So, I would find lots of jobs there.
Right.
That was the plan. And I couldn't not do anything, right? I couldn't just sit and not do anything.
Right.
So
Right.
I kept building furniture. And my husband actually was a major catalyst. Like he would tell me that I have a talent there and I need to explore that more. So
Mm.
he pushed me to, start doing furniture to order and things like that. So I did do a few of those, but I, like put it on Craigslist and have people order table and chairs for kids.
Right.
But that got pretty boring pretty soon, because I was just building the same thing again and again.
Right.
I really wanted to build things for my house, and there was no time for that. And when you're building things for someone else, like there's a lot of pressure for everything to be perfect, everything to
Mm-hmm,
be
mm-hmm.
like the best ever, and the amount of time and energy you put into that, it's not worth what you get paid for it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just not fun anymore. So
Mm.
um, in the meantime, I started looking for jobs, but I also realized like I had gotten into looking at these other women that were doing woodworking online. Like there were 3 or 4 at that time. There weren't very many, but there were 3, 4 at that time. But then I also discovered this whole world of blogs where people were just, showcasing all their things and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I had, started to follow a bunch of them, and I would kind of make things that they would do, like not just furniture, like just painting things or like little tiny projects or stuff like that as well. And I just had it for fun. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna start a website and let's do this. Let's just put things out. Like, here's what I made today. That's what blogs were, right? Oh, 5 minutes,
Right.
what I built today.
Right, right, right.
So I started doing that, and actually, I had a job lined up, but then we decided to move cities again. So I was
Mm.
like, okay, you know what? We'll just scrap this whole idea and let me focus on this blog thing, because I'd also discovered a bunch of people like, okay, you know what? You can actually make money doing this, but I never expected that it would be something that would like completely replace my income. But
Mm.
um, at that point, I just started out. I was like, okay, you know what? Let me just do this for a year or so. I really like, having the flexibility to be able to take care of the kids and stuff. And yeah, that's kind of how it started. And I gave it a year, and it started to, at that point, I was like, this is going somewhere. This is something, because once I started putting everything out, I started getting all the feedback that it was actually empowering people and inspiring people. So
Yeah.
that was just, yeah, that was it.
Yeah,
I,
because it takes a lot of courage to do that. And so, it's inspiring to me also, to put yourself, you put yourself out there, and it is also tough, but at the same time, like, you push through it, and you are doing great with it. So it's very inspiring on so many different levels. But again, now back to what this project is about. I'm so excited to talk about this because you seem to be using a lot of math in woodworking. So can you give examples of how you use geometry in woodworking?
Yeah, of course, because I mean, woodworking, everything that you're building, you're basically building shapes, right, in 3 dimensions. So it's all shapes, right? The first thing is, of course, everything is square. Like, I think 80%, 70 or 80% of woodworking is all about building boxes, right? If you can build
Mm.
a box, then you can build a lot of furniture. Like cabinets are boxes, your dresser is a box with boxes inside it, a table is basically a box with like the legs. So
Right.
everything is a box. So the first thing, of course, is getting all those angles to be perfectly 90 degrees, right? So there's
Mhm.
that where you um, think about it as the Pythagorean theorem, right?
Mhm, mhm.
You use that as a gauge to measure and make sure that all of your ends are square. It's called square in woodworking terms, but what that means is that your corners are 90 degrees. That's
Okay. Okay, I see.
so so this is frame, right? So you really, really want each of these corners to be 90 degrees, right? If it's not 90 degrees, it's going to be like a little skewed, and a frame you might not notice if it's just a little bit off, but with like a dresser or something, it's just gonna like scale up with the
The
as you keep
problems.
going.
Yeah.
But as if your frame is not perfectly a box, your drawer is not going to work. It's going to stick. So
Right.
all of that kind of snowballs. So you really, at every step, whenever you're building, you want to make sure that every corner that you make is perfectly at 90 degrees.
Right.
And the one way we do that is you measure the diagonals. So you measure this diagonal and you measure this diagonal. So they should be perfectly equal. And
Mhm.
essentially, that's the Pythagorean theorem, right? Because
Yeah.
two are same, and this is the diagonal, and these are the same opposites, and that's the diagonal. So you want to make sure that the two diagonals are exactly the same.
So I guess the diagonals are congruent because it's a rectangle. Even though in woodworking terms you call it a square, it's a rectangle.
Yes.
Yeah. So and then so and in terms of the Pythagorean theorem, how do you specifically use it? Like do you have a vision on, okay, I want how much each side length should be, and then go from there? Or how do you start from having a vision and putting that into
So,
place?
so when you're building, you usually know what size you want, right? You want it to be this high and this width. So you already know that. You don't know what the diagonal is going to be.
Right. Okay. So that's where
You-
you're calculating your Pythagorean theorem.
yeah, but you just know that both the diagonals need to be
Have to be
identical.
congruent.
Yes. So that's one of the applications. And so this is a small thing, but sometimes if you're building this huge cabinet or something where you really can't measure the diagonals, you can use the 3-4-5 rule. So you measure and you mark 3 and you mark 4, and then you measure from there to there. So that should be your 5.
5. Yeah.
So yeah, you do that. So there's a bunch of that. And then what else? Geometry, angles. I mean, it's all angles, right? Of course, most of it is 90-degree angles, but then when you you can introduce angles to your projects, and kind of takes the projects, like elevates it a little bit, right? You add a little angle to the leg or whatever. Or one of the very popular things is to make like X's, like X leg furniture.
Hmm.
And stuff. So there's a whole bunch of angles involved in that as well. So
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of calculations. One of the things that we use very often, and a lot of woodworkers use that without realizing it, is that whenever we cut a board on a saw, we are never cutting the actual angle. We're always cutting the complementary angle. Because so if you have a board, right, and so the saw blade always goes through the board like this. So always, if you want, so like here, if you want this to be at 30 degrees, you are going to measure this angle. You're not going to measure this angle. So the saw blade is here. So you're
Okay, I
moving
see.
the saw blade to this point. So you're doing
Oh, I
60 degrees
see.
on the saw blade.
Yeah.
So what's left behind is 30 degrees. So
Right.
how it's calculated. So you'd go like this to cut it off, and what's left behind is what you need, but what you're actually setting your saw to is the
Is the
complementary
complementary angle, because
angle.
complementary angles add up to 90. That's awesome. Any other examples of geometry?
I mean, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'm
Yeah.
sure there are. Like we do so many things with like calculating angles all the time. So
Yeah.
yeah, you gotta know your angle math.
Yeah.
Um,
And do you, I'm sure you may even use some trigonometry also.
yes. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, especially with angles, right? A lot of times, if you want to, like, say, if this was a table or whatever, like a table leg, right? And I wanted to add a piece of wood like this in here, right? How would I calculate exactly how long this board needs to be? Or rather, how would I calculate what the angles need to be, right? I need to figure out what's the angle that I'm going to cut this at so that it fits perfectly. So
Right.
that's where you kind of can use like sine and cos, because they are the relationship of the angle with the length of the sides.
Right. That's
So
awesome. So a geometry, like a good project for trigonometry could be to be built something, because the kids are using, angles and trig and all of that. That's awesome. So you found, you have your diagonal length, but in order to find your angles, you're pretty much solving the triangle. Yeah.
so you're actually doing the inverse trigonometric, like arc. You're doing
Right.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Work the other way as well, right? If you have the angle if you already have the angle and then you want to figure out this actual length.
So that's awesome, Anika. And have you ever encountered a situation where you had to use algebra to solve a woodworking problem?
Well, algebra is pretty much used all the time because now, like if I'm building something and I know what dimensions I need, but I need to figure out how many boards I need to buy, right? Because the boards, they come in 8 feet lengths. So I need to kind of distribute all my cuts onto the boards. What is the best way to kind of make it more efficient so I don't lose material? So, it's a lot of times where we're like, okay, if this was this much, then how many do I need for this kind of math all the time?
Mm. Yeah, wow. That's awesome. Have you had any time where, like you you've made a calculation error and which led to a design flaw and then you had to correct it, something like anything like that?
That happens like all the
All the
time.
time. Yeah, yeah.
Part of the process. That's just part of building anything or doing a project. It always happens, right? Like actually, this week I'm building cabinets for my laundry,
Yeah.
and we have a water softener that I want to enclose, and
Hmm.
I measured it. But apparently, I didn't measure it well enough because I am about an inch and a half short of the wall. So, because I've needed to push it all the way across it and it's not hitting the wall. And it's because of the width of the softener. So now I have to add in some extra boards and stuff to reinforce it. But it happens,
And
like,
you just, you figure out at that time what went wrong and then you just correct. I guess that's what life in general, right? So
yeah.
that's inspiring.
Yeah, it's just a whole bunch of problem solving. Like figuring out how to make a project is one part of problem solving, and then making sure that everything actually works is another part of problem solving. But I think one of the major things, and like I mentioned, checking for square, that's what they call it in
Mhm.
woodworking, checking for square. If you
Right.
keep doing that, like for any furniture project, if you keep doing that as you keep going, then things usually just work out really well.
Right, right. So that's a great a trick for,
Mhm.
if you will. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and also making sure that your measurements are accurate. That is very important.
Yeah. And when is it true that, maybe your engineering background has helped you a little bit in figuring out how much materials to use and all of that? Or how did that background help you in this journey?
So I think what it really helped me was, so I mean, I do have a degree in engineering, but I was mostly like physics. Like I was very like semiconductor physics, material physics. So, and like I had like a master's in physics and stuff. So I think what it really has helped me with is one, I love to look at like how things really work, right? So I really, really try to understand how does the drill work, right? Why does it do what it does? What are all those numbers and exactly how that works? And I am able to understand the motor part of it, like what's going on. Like when they say that you have a brushless motor, what does that mean? Like, why is that good and stuff?
Hmm.
Because I've worked with, like, I've built motors and stuff as well. So there's a whole bunch of that. Like it I think it helps me in being able to grasp things a little bit faster, probably because of the background.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, just really, really understanding the fundamentals is kind of what I feel like I bring in, because a lot of people, like, we just do things because somebody said, oh, you know why, you just need to cut it this way and that's why you do it this way, but you
Hmm.
don't understand why you need to be doing it a certain way. Like you're like, oh, you know what, you set up the thickness of your board on your drill bit and you go for it. I'm like, but why do you need to do that? Right?
Right.
What would happen? Because once you understand why, you would also understand what would happen if you don't do it.
Right. Yeah,
And
yeah. Yeah, asking those questions is so important. Why something is working, why something is not working. And yeah, so it's been a really wonderful conversation, Anika. But before we, wrap up, is there anything you'd like to say to a teacher who's had a main impact on your life?
I think I would probably say to my PhD thesis advisor, because he really, I mean, the whole process of going through a doctorate is really persevering and
Mhm.
really thinking about things and figuring things out. And I think that whole process was really, really helpful in, whatever I do now, because what I do now is not just like woodworking is a part of it, but then there's also all of this other stuff involved. Like there's a whole bunch of other skills like
Right,
photography, um, social media management and
right.
marketing and all kinds of like things that just being able to have know how to learn, right? So,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
taught me how to learn.
Yeah. It's really inspiring because it's not like you went into a program for this. You know what I'm saying? Like everything is self-taught, and there's no prescribed steps to things. Like you're learning it and you're figuring out, okay, I need to learn some marketing perhaps to market my product. So it's I'm also grateful for that professor who instilled in you that wanting to learn and to figure things out, because especially I feel like the way things are going in this world, that's what you need. You have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to and you have all the information. You just have to find and look for that information, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's
like puzzle pieces together and figuring it out.
right. Awesome. Yeah. So, Anika, so thankful for you for giving me your time and for sharing how math is used in woodworking. I had such a good time, and I wish we can go on, but want to be respectful of your time also. But thank you so much, and yeah, I will. I'm sure my listeners also will have a great time listening to you and learning from you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on here. It's absolutely wonderful. And I love your initiative. That is so important.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I really do believe in it, and really hope it inspires kids to learn math more, knowing why they're learning it, or perhaps they're interested in a career and see that math is used in that career, which will encourage them to learn. So yeah, thank you so much again. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed how math is used in woodworking. If you know anyone who is passionate about the way math is used in their work, whether it's yourself or someone you know, please reach out to me. I'd love to have a conversation. Details are on my website, numeracycoach.com. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe. And if you know anyone who could benefit from listening to the show, please share it with them. Until next time, adios.